When I was 19, my parents got a divorce, and the divorce left my mom and my younger brother homeless. They were sleeping on the floor after just being evicted from our house that we had grown up in. And the landlord had taken the doorknobs off. Their stuff was thrown out onto the street, and they had a day left until it was time to leave, or the sheriff would come and, get rid of them. At the time, I was a sophomore in college, and so I wasn't doing well in college. I was still adjusting, just gone through a breakup, couldn't afford college, and I was on academic probation. So I was just rock bottom, not doing well whatsoever. I always saw things as happening to me as opposed to, looking for opportunities for growth. And so I remember I would always complain to my friends. I would always be worried, just very anxious. One day, right, I was complaining like I always did to one of my friends, and they literally told me to shut the F up. They were like, shut up. Like, nobody cares. We want to be happy. We were like, not even talking about sad stuff right now. And here you are bringing up your issues, right? And I remember just turning tail and walking away after that was said, because what do you say to that, right? And I cried in my dorm room that night, for sure. I felt so ashamed, embarrassed, selfish, right? Because they had a point. You don't always have to put what you're going through on others, and that's definitely what I was doing. And so they weren't wrong in what they said. Now, me and that person aren't friends anymore, but here is why what that person said saved my life. And this is how I alchemized that situation in order to become rich in my 30s. So after I cried in private about what had just happened, I spoke with financial assistance because I didn't feel like I had any other choice. People always said whenever I would complain to them, like, you should speak to financial assistance. Maybe they can help you. Maybe there's some scholarships, some grants that you can qualify for. And so that's what I did. I spoke to financial assistance, and they pointed me in the direction of a special circumstances application where I was able to file abandonment, basically, because my mom was not able to take care of my tuition, and my dad had essentially run away from his responsibilities. So he, was nowhere to be seen for a while after my mom and my brother had become homeless. And so I presented that to the financial aid office and was lucky enough to get $20,000 in grant money in order to finish my education. Without that, I definitely would have had to drop out. I had no money, no means to get that done, to get that taken care of. So I was essentially screwed if I hadn't had done that. So that's the first thing I did after crying in private. The next thing I did was I wanted to isolate the fact that I was on academic probation. And so I got focused. I stopped worrying about everything but my grades. I made an effort, a concerted effort to study all the time, write extra good notes, record if I needed to. Also I went to study groups, tutoring, things like that, just so that I could figure out what I needed to do in order to do better academically. Because if I wasn't able to pay to go to school, I at least didn't want to get kicked out because I wasn't doing a good job. So that's the next thing that I did. The third thing that I did was I isolated myself. I didn't hang out because it left room for comparison. There is no way when you're struggling financially that you can enjoy social interactions in college if you're worried about your future, right? For me, my future depended on graduating college. And if I hadn't done that, then there was no way that I was going to be able to change my situation. And so that was my next move, was to isolate myself. This also helped me to just not compare and be so depressed about what was going on and what I didn't have control over. A lot of comparison happens when you are just distracted by other people and what other people have and what other people are doing. And so that was a very important step in me overcoming basically, FOMO and comparison. I'm actually currently outside of the legacy Google, Salesforce, Tableau, and Adobe campus, and they're all kind of smashed together here in this area right outside of Fremont. So they have a very beautiful campus, as you can see, and there's a gym in there because they don't want you to ever leave when you work at these places. And part of the reason why I kind of like to walk through here is just to show you guys, what it looks like. There we go, Adobe private property there. The last thing that I ended up doing in order to get out of the situation that I was in was I reconnected with my dad and I spoke to him so that I could basically tell him my situation, that I needed help basically paying for college and that I was staring down the barrel of having to drop out. And, for me, going to college was a requirement. My parents required me to go. So it was an understanding that they would help me through it. And so I just laid down the facts to my dad because he is not one to take kindly to emotional anything. And so I just laid down the facts, told him what I needed and what I had and what I didn't have. And we worked out a plan in order for him to pay for the rest of my college. And so he did do that. And that's how I was able to get through it. But how did this make me rich? So the things that I ended up doing in order to get out of that situation, I still use to this day. And I think there were some very important lessons learned that I just wanted to bring up to you guys now, because a lot of the time people see where you end up and they think that it's luck or, strictly privilege. And there was definitely some of that in there. But a lot of the things that happened to me, I was able to alchemize those strategies into ways to make more money in my 30s and continue to beyond now. So how is all of that relevant? This is how that strategy still helps me to this day. First of all, crying in private to me was the first step in order to getting out of my situation. Dealing with your emotions is very important, but where you choose to do it and how you choose to do it definitely plays a part in how much respect you can retain from the people around you, from your peers, your network, things like that. It's very important to hold a certain, honestly, mask when you are in public or when you are in need of networking opportunities. And so that definitely helped, just learning to keep that sort of to myself and not display it for everybody to see. Secondly, I went to my resources that were actually allocated to helping me in my situation. I oftentimes, as I said, would complain about my situation and make it honestly awkward for the people around me. And looking back, that's not fair to my friends, right? My peers, my non-network peers. What are they supposed to do if I don't have $20,000 to finish college, right? So it was putting an unnecessary burden. As harsh as that may sound, it was putting a burden on people who didn't have the tools to help me. Going to the financial aid office showed me that you should compartmentalize your needs and go to the specific place that will deal with your needs, whether it's therapy, whether it's unemployment, food stamps, anything like that that you need to go to those resources first and not rely on your friends and damage your relationships. Third, I focused. I studied. I focused on what I wanted to change. I isolated. That's number 4. I isolated from having fun. A lot of people are in bad situations because they don't want to do what you have to do in order to get out of it. There's plenty of things that I did not want to do, but I know that if I didn't do it, I would not have bettered my situation. And honestly, that's just part of being an adult. And lastly, negotiating. I learned to negotiate from my father. As I said, he is not an emotionally present person. He wants to hear facts, he wants to see numbers, and he wants reasoning. And so that's what I came with in order to get what I wanted. I told him that I had a shared goal with him, which was to graduate college. That's what he wanted me to do. And in order to do that, I needed his help. I told him how much I needed, and I told him what my situation was. He asked me what my grades were. I told him they were bad. So then we made a deal that if I were to better my grades within a semester, that he would increase the amount that he would give me in order to go towards my tuition. And so that's what I did. It was a give and take sort of thing that taught me that in order to receive what you want, you need to be able to give what that person wants as well. And as harsh as that is, you know, a lot of people go to their dads for more than just financial support, but that wasn't my situation, and I had to do what I had to do in order to better what I was going through. And so I have used my negotiating skills that I learned from my father when I was 19 up until this day, up until 31. And it actually helped me to increase my income in the height of the pandemic in 2020, 63%, from $48,000 to $75,000, because I noticed that there was an issue at the job that I wanted to work at, and I had the solution. And it's just how you display it to them in order to let them know that you are an asset to that team and that you will continue to be an asset to that team, but with a price. So that is how being kicked when I was down, being told to shut up and get over it, that's how that made me rich. I know that it is a little harsh and it's not always what people want to hear, but it definitely helped me to where I am today. And it also taught me empathy, right? Would I suggest treating someone who's down this way? No, I would never be able to do that. And because I was treated that way, it also helps me to see other perspectives and be just a little softer in that approach when someone does come to you for help. But that's basically what I did in order to get out of that situation. And, you know, not everybody's situation will be cookie cutter, cut and dry. What I would like to know in the comments is how you guys handled adversity in your lives and what were some things that you took from it. Because a lot of people take trauma from that, and I definitely did. But I learned so many lessons that helped me to survive. It made me resilient and scrappy when things get tough. So that's what I want to know in the comments for you guys. What are some things that you learned when you were going through a tough time that's helped you survive to this day? That's what I would like to see in the comments below, or anything else that you feel like putting. And I will see you in the next video.